Live from the Real Asset Queen studios in Kalispell, Montana, this is the Real Asset Queen Live, the one and only show about connecting people, process, and money. Each week, you'll hear mind-blowing interviews from top industry thought leaders, as well as actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your finances, business, or investing life. Please welcome your host, a former healthcare executive turned entrepreneur, investor, and efficiency expert, Michelle Kimbrough.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 10 of the Real Asset Queen. Very blessed to have everybody here. Tonight, I am so humbled. We have Mike Morawski. He's going to be talking to us about why real estate is the best investment. So some housekeeping, we do have somebody monitoring the chat box. So feel free to go ahead and put your questions and comments in there, and we'll be sure to answer them at the end with the live Q&A. Some disclaimers. Real Asset Queen, we are not financial advisors or CPAs, so please, any information that you hear here on our shows, please go back to your appropriate person and see if it fits your particular situation. Other than that, next week, stay tuned. We have Keely Hubbard, and we are going to be talking about Texas vineyards. Who would have thought? So anyhow, Mike Morawski is with us tonight. He is a 30 plus real estate veteran, $285 million assets under management. Just an amazing person. His story will humble everybody and inspire you at the same time. So Mike, thank you so much for joining us. And I really am blessed and humbled to have you on here. So do you want to go ahead and give your intro and a fun fact that we don't know about Mike?
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Michelle. I really appreciate you having me on. It's an honor, and always love to be able to share and help other people grow if I can. So, hope people listening tonight will get something out of this. And like you said, though, I've been in real estate 30 years, owned and operated 4,000 units, had a management company managing 7,500 units. Prior to that, I was in the residential sales side. And prior to that, I had a general contracting business. So I know a little bit about housing, a little bit about construction, and a little bit about the multifamily business. So, and my passion and desire is multifamily. I just love the business. I love being able to somebody said, why do I love the business? Asked me one time. And I said, I have always had a mission in the business to provide safe and secure housing for our tenants, and I always looked at it from a standpoint that there were, there's a lot of single moms in the world, but there's a lot of single parents in the world. And I wanted their kids to be able to come home from school, and the parents, if they were not there, to feel safe that when that door closed behind them, that they weren't going to get hassled for drugs or to be in a gang or things like that. So that's really always and continues to be my mission, trying to provide that safe and secure housing for people. And, you stumped me on the fun fact. I like to do a lot of things, but what do I really like to do? I think that the one thing I really like to do is I love to walk on the lakefront. I'm in Chicago, so I love to go and bike ride or walk on the lakefront, especially in the evening, or on the beach in, Southern California is a great example. That's where I'm in Chicago, but really would love to live in Laguna. So
that is a very nice place.
Yeah, for sure.
Very nice place. That's awesome. Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you got started in real estate.
Yeah. So, I kind of alluded to the fact that, I was in the construction business. I had a general contracting business here in Chicago, and was really successful. But the problem was, and most people, as an entrepreneur, you do everything. So I did the marketing, I did the sales, I did the ordering, I did the hiring, the firing, the bookkeeping. And, kept massive hours, and I was still in the field banging nails. And one morning I woke up and I looked at my wife at the time and I said, I'm burnt out. I can't do this anymore. And decided to sell my business. I was very fortunate. I had somebody knocking on the door who wanted to buy it, and I sold it and took a year off. And if there's any entrepreneurs listening, you know that you don't take time off. I didn't take a year off. I wound up house hacking a couple of houses. And Michelle, this is long before it was sexy, right? Everybody does it now. It's kind of the way of the world. And, that's how people get into real estate investing today is they buy a small multifamily, or they buy a single family house. They live in it, they rehab it, they sell it, they move on to the next one. So I had heard Jim Rohn say years ago, success leaves clues. And I that always stuck with me. He said, if you follow successful people, you'll be successful, no matter if they do great things or they even make mistakes. Either way, you're going to learn. So I met a real estate agent along the way who was really successful, and went to him and said, hey, Todd, I'm thinking about going in the real estate business. And he said, I think you'd be great at it. He encouraged me to do it. Went back to him, said, hey, could I shadow you and your team and see how you do things? And he said, no. He said, I'm going to do one better. And now I'm going to date myself. He said, I'll make you a cassette tape. And I say that because I don't think you could find anything to make a cassette tape on today. And he made me this cassette tape, and I listened to it over and over and over again. And I followed those fundamentals and those principles, went in the real estate business. And my first 9 months in the business, I sold 78 houses. I went on to build a team selling about 125 houses a year, and did that for about 12 years. In 2005, I saw the market starting to shift and soften, knew I would have to do something different. So I decided to go in the apartment business. And, I didn't know anything about it. I mean, the first time somebody said yield to me, or they said cap rate to me, I was totally lost. I had no idea what that stuff meant. So I did a lot of self-education. I asked a lot of questions. I talked to a lot of people, but 2005, I syndicated my first apartment deal, went on from there and built a portfolio of 4,000 units. We raised $18 million, did that in about 30 months. And at the same time, built a property management company managing 7,500 doors, and built a $100 million company in 30 months. And
That's impressive.
Yeah, thanks.
Impressive. So you talked a little bit about your passion for multifamily, of, providing that safe and secure housing for children. What else drives you to be passionate about multifamily?
Um, I, you know, I, this might be an old cliche, but it's really the art of the deal. And if anybody ever read Trump's book from years and years ago, that title always stuck with me. But I love relationships. I love meeting people, working with people, helping people, learning from people, and negotiating. So I love when I have the opportunity to find a deal and do all of the underwriting and, build the relationships and go through the negotiations. That's what I'm passionate about. That's what I love to do. And I always tell people when they go into that business that you should figure out everything that has to happen. There's probably 30 different things that happen in the multifamily business when you're syndicating, an offering, and find out what you're really good at. Then go find some other people who are really good at everything else. And that's how you put a good team together.
Yeah, I think that's so critical. And you spoke so eloquently of the entrepreneurial spirit, right? Because I think once you get a taste of, you know, digging and, finding something that just energizes you. You can't get enough of it, and I've played in the startup world, and that's kind of how I see, real estate syndication. You find a deal, and then the underwriting and due diligence and the negotiation, and there's a lot of energy around that, and it's self-feeding, and it keeps you want to keep going again.
Yeah.
And then if you sprinkle that over the top of providing safe and affordable housing to American families, it's just, for me, it's a win-win. It's very exciting.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about that. So,
Yeah. So, we have some listeners that may be syndicators, and some that have never heard of syndication before, and some that are starting in the single family space like you did and I did. And maybe they want to expand into multifamily or apartments. So, from your standpoint, who would be the best candidates to get into the multifamily space?
anybody who has a desire. I find a lot of people that say, I want to do this, but they don't want to take action. It is a business of taking action. And we can get all the education in the world. But if we don't execute on that education, we're not going to move forward. We won't get anything done. I love this story. I was when we were heavily raising capital in our company. Donald Trump at the time was doing these real estate weekend events, and he only did them for a couple of years. They were in Chicago, Dallas, LA, and New York. And we would go to these events. And I remember having a booth at one of these events in Chicago. And I sat down next to a guy on a bench one afternoon, and he had these two big bags of books and tapes that he had just bought. And I said, wow, looks like you're really getting started. And he said, no, he goes, I've been at this for a while. I buy this stuff and I listen to it. I said, have you bought anything? And he said, no, I haven't bought anything yet. And it was just clear to me that you really need to take action if you're gonna progress or do anything. I said, why haven't you? He goes, well, he goes, I spend more time trying to convince my wife that it was okay for me to spend $5,000 on this stuff than it is for me to go and buy my first asset. And, it's just been a crazy conversation that I always remember. I really believe people need to take action. Like I said, I didn't know anything going in the business. I went and I found an apartment building, and it was just a small 11 unit deal. And I had to think, okay, how do I put this together? Well, I knew when I was in the construction business that I did a lot of work for a large syndicator in Chicago here, who today, Inland Real Estate, 4 high school teachers, they started their company, they pooled some money together, bought 1 4-unit apartment building. And today they're one of the largest REITs, a real estate investment trust in the world. And they're in 80 countries around the world in every asset class. So you never know where the business can go if you have that desire and you want to move forward and do that. So I understood this. I understood you could raise private equity, marry it with a great real estate deal, stay in the middle, and as long as everything went well, you'd do well. So I thought, well, geez, let me try and raise money and do this. And the first time I raised capital, I put a little classified ad in the newspaper. And you can't duplicate this today because there's no newspapers with these little classified ads. But it said, real estate investors wanted. And my phone rang off the hook. And I raised $200,000 for that. But over the next 6 months, from that little $45 ad, I raised $600,000. So, that was the best return on investment I ever had, right? And, we just, I just started raising capital from that point on. And here's what I would tell people, though, is don't grow too fast. Make sure you're stabilizing assets. Make sure that you're getting your arms around those assets. Because I made a couple mistakes along the way. I grew too fast. I was unstable as a company. I was undercapitalized and over leveraged. Michelle, I owned $60 million worth of real estate at 85% loan to value. And I always say, I don't know who was worse, me for taking the money or the banks for giving it to me. Today I would, especially in the environment that we're in or moving into, I would not advise anybody to be more than 65 or 70% loan to value.
Yeah, no, that's really great advice. Especially, we're coming into, you know, a landscape that may be uncharted territory for all that we know. I mean, we've seen the cycles and we kind of can see what's coming, but we really don't know how bad it's going to be. And yeah, everybody has their opinion on it, including me. But I think that's a great advice to give somebody is don't over leverage. I see so many people today that are over leveraged, even in their personal lives, and I'm concerned that they're not going to be able to brace the storm that's coming at us. I do like what you said about execution, and I see that a lot too. My background is Lean Six Sigma, and part of what we did with my consulting firm is change management. And it's really difficult to get people to change and to execute something, whether they be fearful of failing, is usually the number one thing. And it's scary. And, I remember when I left my corporate job, it was very scary. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen when I started my business, but I made a decision that I was just going to keep walking through doors and keep moving forward and one foot in front of the other and just see where it lands. Well, that was 12 years ago, and 4 companies into this later, I have not had to return to the corporate world. But I also think a big part of that is because I execute everything. I'm just so big on that. Early on, I had analysis paralysis, which, we all get there, but you've got to break out of that mold and you have to do it. And let me tell you, the last 12 years of my life, I have done things and worked alongside of people that I never would have in the corporate world. And I'm finding that now in, the real estate investment side. I have had dinners and conversations with people that never would have graced my path, if I hadn't have been diligent and executed something. So I think that's huge. But that's also a very personal thing, right? Is getting over that fear or whatever it is, so that you can execute. Do you have any thoughts, how people, if they might be stuck, in that execute, like they're just learning, how do they get unstuck and execute?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it comes down to accountability, right? I've had a personal coach in my life for 20 years, and I even today still have coaches in my life that help me with different aspects of my business. And we all have to grow. None of us grow professionally unless we grow personally. So I always tell, one of the things my coaches always did for me is we would work on something. Maybe it was a script, maybe it was a dialogue, maybe it was, my numbers in my business and how many phone calls or outgoing calls I was making. But my coach would always give me an assignment. We'd end every call with an assignment, and then he'd hold me accountable till the next week, till I came back. And I hated, I'm always the kind of person, I hate disappointing anybody. I'm not the type of person that wants to come back to that next call and say, I didn't get it done. So it always caused me to push myself further. And I think people just need to walk through the fear, right? If you're held back by fear, you stay stuck and you have to push yourself through it. So get a coach, have somebody hold you accountable, get someone who will walk next to you in that time and continue to encourage you and push you out of your box a little bit. We all kind of live in this box, right? And we have to get outside of it in order to expand or grow. So.
Yeah. What is it? The Marine Corps saying is embrace the suck.
Yeah, I love that.
Sometimes you just have to grab it and give a big bear hug and, just push it out of the way.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine, um, he told me one time, he said, Michelle, he said, you can cry for 5 minutes and then you're going to get up and you're just going to keep walking forward. And that was probably some of the best advice that I ever got. And so I try to hang on that now. If I run into a situation and I'm like, oh man, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna spend a couple minutes and then that's it, because it doesn't belong in my life. Just gonna move on.
Right. For sure. I have
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, for sure. So, if somebody's listening, and they want to get started in multifamily, what's some of the top one, two, three things that they could do to get into the business?
Yeah. So, I coach a lot of people and I work with brand new investors as well as some seasoned people. And the first place I tell people to start is build relationships with people. Let people know that you're a real estate investor, even if you're brand new, right? Because if you're brand new and you meet somebody else who's an investor, they love to share information with you. So you can learn by building those relationships. But every time we meet somebody, let them know that you're a real estate investor. You're going to be looking for a joint venture partner. You're going to be looking for private capital. You're going to be looking for other people to participate in your real estate deals with you, and build a database. I think one of the things that I did not learn early on in the real estate business was to build a database. And I think that that's one of those key principles, because as we meet these people, you have to participate in this business like a farmer. You have to plant a seed, water it, and at some point you're going to harvest it, whatever that may be. You may meet a broker where you need to get deal flow across your desk. You may need a contractor where you have to meet contractors and learn how they work and if they can handle the needs that you have for your capital improvements. And you're going to want to meet other investors and people who want to invest in real estate deals. But that's really the first thing, is I think that people need to know. Then people need to design for themselves a buying strategy. What do they want to buy? I went and I bought that first building, and I keep a picture of it around because it was an ugly building. And I had all these great dreams because everybody said, oh, you can rehab it and put new tenants in and raise the rents. And I didn't do any due diligence, and I didn't do any underwriting up front or analyzing up front. And I bought a bag of bricks, because when I bought it and took it over, within 6 months, I became somebody who wanted to get rid of it really quick. So build a buying strategy for yourself. Know what you want. If you pull in a parking lot or a driveway of a building, is it something that is visually appealing to you? So I like garden style apartments, right? 2 to 3 story units with pitched roofs and a little bit of brick, and just something that kind of gives you that flair that you want to look at. I don't want to pull in a parking lot and see beach towels or Confederate flags in the windows. I want to see, nice blinds and window treatments that, make it look like a place that people want to live, right? And you can do that by changing it. And then understand the financial fundamentals. Understand how to analyze a property. I think that whether you are doing the underwriting or whether somebody else is, you still need to know the numbers. Because if you're somebody who's involved in investing and you're in a deal and you're raising capital, you better know the numbers. And the only way to know those is by knowing how to underwrite thoroughly, and have a little bit more than just a basic idea or basic knowledge about it. So I think those are the 3 big things, though. And then again, you have to take action on it.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Underwriting for sure. And to be a good leader, you have to know the processes, right?
Right.
But I think the next biggest thing that you touched on is building that list and relationships. This is very much a relational business. And I mean, you're constantly meeting people, you're constantly networking, because you're right. You don't know who you may need in the future on your team, you
Hmm.
know And you need to also nurture those relationships. I have people approach me all the time, and it almost feels like a one and done. And then all of a sudden I get an email, hey, we got this deal, join the webinar. And I'm thinking, I haven't talked to you in over a year. I don't even know what you've been doing.
Yeah.
So I think nurturing them, and especially as we go into this cycle, whether it be a recession or downturn, whatever you want to call it, I think even more important today is to keep building that list and nurturing those lists, and talking to people, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities that we'll be able to execute. But I think keeping that list alive and active, and that's how I like to look at my list, is that it's not something that is just housed on my hard drive or on LinkedIn or my phone. It's actually a living, breathing document. How can I always provide value to that particular person? And on the podcast here, we talk about all things, business. We talk about money, investing, entrepreneurship, and it's just important to always stay in front of people and that they get to know you, because it's also a business of trust.
Hmm.
And you really have to trust the people. And I really feel if I'm going to ask somebody for money, I need to guard that with all of my life, and then my daughter's life too,
Yeah.
because these people are trusting me with their money to apply it in a way that it's going to grow and return back to them, with the velocity of money. So, I think it's so critical that you nurture those relationships. And I think I'm really big on that. And just having whoever that person is, the investor or the builder or broker, whoever, at the center of everything that you do, and that you're really enhancing that experience, and that they feel like they're the only one in the room, right?
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And you are right about, you had mentioned something about raising capital, right? People really do need to trust you, because we are held, Michelle, if you invest $1 with me, I'm held at a much higher standard than anybody else, right?
Mhm.
Even a higher standard than a licensed professional, because I need to be very transparent, and I need to be very forthright with what we are doing. So we have to make sure that people understand, one, what they're getting into, what the risks are, as well as the potential, outcome and how great it could be, if operated well. And I think that because of the environment we're going into, people just need to ask more questions today of the people they get involved with, and with being inside of one of these, multifamily or any real estate syndication at all. The returns are great, and a private investor does really well, and in most cases gets the lion's portion. The syndicator, the operator, really needs to be more transparent in those communications.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree with you. So, Mike, why don't we open it up and see if we have any questions to our group? And while we're doing that, why don't you tell us where people can connect with you and
Sure.
what you have coming up?
Yeah. So I am everywhere anybody gets their fix on social media. So whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter or um, Instagram, Facebook, you can find me on any social media platform. You can reach out to me directly if you want to connect at mike@mycoreintentions.com. I actually have a property management boot camp coming up next week, and it's a full day virtual event that we're going to cover all the topics on property management, everything from marketing and sourcing tenants to that initial phone call with a tenant, to some financials and how do we drive revenue and create more value in those properties. That'll be a full day virtual event. You can register for that on my website at mycoreintentions.com. /management. It'll take you right to the link. And I also have a book, Michelle, that I wrote called Exit Plan, which is, your complete guide to multifamily investing and why you need an exit plan before you buy. And you can get that on my website, or if you want an ebook version, you can download that at my website. Just do Mike Core Intentions /free, and you can download that book.
Okay, that's super. That's super. So I'll ask, do we have any questions for Mike? Because he is a wealth of knowledge. He's so generous with his time. Mike, thank you again. It's been a pleasure having you. Oh, thank you, Amber. She says, good topic. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, you're welcome, Amber. Thank you.
Yeah, I think she had a question around what your position was as far as jumping into any multifamily assets coming up in this environment. Like, just your thoughts. Is that a good idea? Should we wait?
Yeah, I never say wait. I think if you continue to look and source deals, you'll find great deals out there to participate in. It's been said before that there's 2 times you can plant a tree, 20 years ago or today. Why wait? So you should move forward. I think we're moving into a time that's going to be unprecedented again. It's a great time to invest in real estate, a great time to invest in multifamily. So.
Yeah, and again, I think going back to the underwriting and understanding those numbers will help keep you out of trouble and entering into something that may not be a good deal. So
Yeah.
that's critical. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Mike, thanks so much again. I'm so humbled. I really am. So everybody, don't forget, next week we're going to have Keely Hubbard, and we'll be talking about Texas vineyards and syndicating a vineyard and learning all about that. I didn't even know that they grow grapes in Texas. I guess they do. I learn stuff every day. So if we don't have any more questions, I want to be respectful of Mike's time. And so again, please reach out to Mike at mycoreintentions.com. Pick up his book. And if you're interested in property management, please check out his virtual event. I know it will be amazing. So Mike, thanks again, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate it. Good night, everybody.
You bet. Good night.